Just to introduce people who are just watching this video, this is David Cable, which everyone who follows Ian Allan books will be aware of, and I'd like to ask you a few questions about what started your interest in photographing trains.
Well, I've been interested in trains since the age of 3, when my father used to take me up to the footbridge at Hatch End, where we used to live, and it became a hobby and an interest ever since. I acquired a camera after the war in 1947, which my grandmother gave me, just a basic old little bellows camera with a shutter speed of probably no more than 1/100th of a second. But we did get some pictures which I'm very glad I took. They're certainly historic, and some of them have come out quite well. And from there on, the hobby just gradually developed, except that during the 1950s I went through a phase of motor racing, so I didn't take very many pictures in that particular period. In 1966 we went out to live in Australia for 7 years, and regrettably I never took enough pictures out there. But once we came back in 1973, then I've gone mad, I think, ever since, and the collection has been welcomed by Ian Allan's for various publications.
Wonderful. Now tell me, so you must have started off photographing steam trains?
Yes, steam was the norm, although I did take 1 or 2 of the very early diesels, the Pioneer diesels, 10,000 and 10,001, the gas turbine, and then I got the earlier classes in various locations, and the prototype Deltic, before they all became the norm.
So was it an exciting time for you when diesel started to come in, or was it? Did you miss steam trains?
No, because my attitude has always been to take the trains of the day, and so I do not go out these days photographing preserved steam. If it comes along, then I'll take it. But I took steam in the days when it was the normal thing, good, bad, filthy, whatever. But of course, the shots I took in those days are quite historic.
But you've also travelled the whole world taking different photos, is that?
Well, I've travelled. I've covered 42 states in the USA, 3 Canadian provinces. Just went across the border in Mexico, okay. And then I've done the whole of Western Europe, and also Australia extensively, and a few shots in Malaysia and in Hong Kong.
Oh, that's amazing. I was recently in the Czech Republic, and it's amazing what turns up.
I find the Czech Republic is one of my most enjoyable countries, because not only do we still have a lot of locomotive-hauled trains, but the range of classes and colour schemes. I mean, it's always said that some of the sheds literally must have old pots of paint which are going to last for years, and they've got to use them up on something, and so there's no thought about having a standard livery for some of them. Use the paint pot.
You never know what will turn up.
That's right.
But it's not just trains. We were talking a few moments ago that you used to play jazz.
I used to play the trombone, yes. I learnt at school, played in the school orchestra, both we used to do an oratorio every year, and I also used to play in the brass band there, and then gradually started changing over to, I played in a symphony orchestra once I'd left school, which was not really very satisfactory. The pieces weren't really appropriate for a trombone. And then I met up with somebody who introduced me to a chap called Doug Whitten, who was one of the early jazz leaders in this country. We're talking in terms of now 1949, and I joined the band and played with them. This was traditional jazz. I used to play at the 100 Oxford Street and places like that, in the days when Humphrey Lyttelton was sort of resident there. And then I gradually changed over to play modern jazz, and carried on until my job took me first of all to Bristol, where there was a very good group which I joined, and then to Plymouth, where the standard of musicianship wasn't as high, and I had to take the decision, now what am I going to be, a part-time musician, doing a job, or am I going to be a proper businessman? And I took the decision that since the quality of the musicianship was not up to the standard I'd been playing at, that I would give up the trombone and concentrate on my career.
Originally you worked in the cement industry?
Oh no, I started off in precious metal refining.
Oh, I see.
Then I joined a mechanical handling firm in Stevenage, or Hitchin and Stevenage. I then moved to Bristol for various personal reasons, and then joined Clark's Shoes. And it was with Clark's Shoes that I went out to Australia. Clark's in Australia was not the same as it is in this country. And I then went into management consultancy, stayed as a consultant when I came back, and then Blue Circle asked me to join them when we'd been doing a project for them. And I stayed with them for 10 years, managed to engineer my own redundancy, and went into a specialist consultancy partnership till I retired.
Oh, wonderful. Now, for people who are starting taking photos, they're interested in trains, and they like to take their own photos, what tips would you give them?
The first thing is composition. You must compose your picture properly, and it's worth taking time getting your position established properly so that you can visualise where the train is going to be, and also try to avoid various objects that are going to impede into the photograph. The classic, of course, in the old days being a telegraph pole coming out of the chimney of a steam locomotive. Now, you do need to take time thinking about this. With digital photography, of course, one can always cheat and paint these things out. I still take slides, and therefore it's important to me that I've got to get it right.
So there's no cheating with your photos?
No cheating as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Now, the next thing is, obviously, it pays you to have a good equipment. The lens is important, and obviously the camera needs to have as much flexibility as well as it can, because if you're going to be taking moving trains, you've obviously got to have a camera that's got a fast shutter speed. The English weather, of course, doesn't help. Days such as we've been having, where it's been just gloom, really don't make a good picture. Colours don't come out, and of course you're also, if you're taking a moving train, having to get the combination of shutter speed and aperture of the camera correct. And of course, if it's a moving train, you have to have the shutter speed, but then you don't get the depth of focus in the picture because of the fact that the aperture is too open.
So what's your latest project?
The last one that I've worked on is it's still not yet been accepted, but it's a book, hopefully a book about the privatisation classes, of which there are a surprising number. This is locomotives and also multiple units, and I have been having preliminary discussions and have developed the things so that it's at least at a stage where someone can have a look at the thing. This is quite interesting because what I've tried to cover is, with the locomotives, all the different types of duty that they've undertaken, the different types of freight duties, and of course obviously the different types of passengers, with the different colour schemes, not only EWS and Freightliner, but all the others, including West Wrexham and Shropshire, who of course have now gone, and with the multiple units, again covering as many different locations, getting away from the normal locations as far as possible, and showing the train in the surroundings, as well as some obviously detailed shots in order that people can see details of roof lines and all sorts of things like this. That's just sort of in the melting pot.
So if anyone's watching this video and they really want to make sure this book appears, they should lobby Ian Allan.
I definitely agree with that.
David Cable, it's been wonderful talking to you, and you can check out a full range of David's books at www.ianallanpublishing.com.
Something else, which was to take this picture of the 57 with the Great Western Sleeper Service, which is batting down from Long Rock into Penzance Station to work the night sleeper. I haven't got a picture of one of those in that particular colour scheme before. And at that time of the year you could obviously get the train reasonably well lit. I was pleased to have that. Now, Brian Denton and I went down to Pilning. The last time I'd been to Pilning, I had 70023 Venus and 5099, I think it was Clifford Castle, working the Down Capitals United. I had 5041 Tipperton Castle working the Up South Wales Pullman. I had a 282 tank coming round this one. So you can see that it was not a place that I've been to in recent times. I was in 1960. Here is the Taunton to Cardiff service, now worked only by one engine at this point, because earlier in the day it had gone up with a pair and one had failed. And as a result of this, they shortly afterwards cancelled the contract for Virgin and whoever it was. No, it wasn't. I can't remember who it was, but they cancelled the service because of the unreliability of these Virgin Class 57s. So they're now DMUs that work it. But interesting to just see it with a single locomotive, which then had to run round at Cardiff, and we got it on the return trip coming back. Okay. Coming up from the tunnel, this 66 with a train of ballast going up to Westbury. And then moved on up to Patchway, where the Theodore Robeson tanks came through with a 60, now a single 66 rather than the 60 that used to be on it.